I have been a gamer since I was very, very young, probably 5 years old or so, maybe even younger, playing video games. And I think the very first video game that I ever actually officially owned on my own console was Kirby's Dream Land for the black and white Game Boy. I believe that was the very first game that I actually owned, and I loved that back in the day. But I also owned so many other consoles. I had the Game Boy and other varieties of it, like the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. Had the Sega Genesis, also known as the Mega Drive if you live outside of the United States. The Nintendo 64, the Sega Dreamcast, the Nintendo GameCube, PlayStation 1, 2, and 3, and the PSP, PlayStation Portable. And I had so many games on all these systems, and they have made a huge impact on my life. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of these games that have made a big impact, but primarily two games in particular that have made, literally, if I never played them, I would not be the same person I am today. They have changed me in such a drastic way that it's quite unbelievable. Changed my perception on life, changed the path that I was on in life at such an early age, and they literally have shaped me into a completely different person. So I love video games so very much because of the positive lessons it has taught me, the fun that I've had with them. So much fun that I even started my own gaming channel several years back. Asphodel Gaming, if you're not aware, if you're not subscribed, you can go check that out. Asphodel Gaming, certainly, I play a lot of really older games. I enjoy games. I play mostly retro style games, whether it be for really, really old black and white systems or like Game Boy or PlayStation 2. If you're perhaps around the same age I am or a little bit older, probably you may recognize some of the games, but I also play a lot of obscure games as well. So maybe it'll be games that you never heard about on the system that you absolutely loved. So yes, please be sure to check it out because it is something that I'm very passionate about playing these games, and it's a lot of fun. It's one of the most fun things. But out of all the consoles that I owned, PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 were my absolute favorite. They really were. And when I was a kid, and I don't have most of these games now, the actual games that I had when I was really, really young, because I had it on systems that I don't have anymore, so I ended up selling those systems. I had various Sonic games for the Sega Genesis. Don't have any Sega Genesis games anymore, I've sold them all. Zelda games, Mario games for the Nintendo 64. Don't have those games anymore either. Loved those. But I also had some other games that I wanted to show you here because I have quite a collection. So some very fun games that I had back in the day was the Tekken series. And I had the Tekken series. This is for the PlayStation 1. Tekken 2. I had this one here. I had Tekken 3 also for the PlayStation 1. One of my favorite games. Played it with my family. Tekken Tag Tournament for the PlayStation 2. Had that one. Tekken 4, also PlayStation 2. Look at all this. Tekken 5, PlayStation 2. Technically Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection for the PSP. But I also had the digital download of Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, which combined both these games. It was a digital download on the PlayStation 3. And then I even have some soundtracks. I have the Tekken 4 soundtrack here, as you can see. And the Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection soundtrack. So I love the music too. But these are the only soundtracks that I actually own here, so of the Tekken series. So that's my Tekken collection, and I have a lot of memories of playing this with my family back in the day, and it was a whole lot of fun. Played a lot of matches, just having a fun, entertaining time. But another game that I had a fun, entertaining time with some of my family was the Twisted Metal series. So this was mostly games on the... Well, I should also mention, Tekken was a fighting game. If you're not familiar, it was a fighting game. Had a lot of fun with the family. This is not a fighting game. Well, it technically kind of is a fighting game of sorts. This is a fighting game, but you're in cars. So you're trying to destroy your opponents in cars. And I have every single Twisted Metal game, except for the last one that was released on the PlayStation 3. So Twisted Metal 1, Twisted Metal 2, Twisted Metal 3, which this was my least favorite one. Twisted Metal 2 was one of my favorites, and as well as Twisted Metal 4 was also one of my favorites. Twisted Metal Small Brawl, Twisted Metal Black, which didn't really play this one with the family. This one, I'll mention this in just a moment here. And then Twisted Metal Head On, and I even have, well, let me actually see, actually. Yes, the PlayStation 2 version of Twisted Metal Head On as well, which had bonus content and everything. So these games, basically, you're in a car and you have to destroy your opponents. And it was primarily, like, when you win the competition, you get a story for that character. And sometimes it's really silly, other times it's kind of dumb. But in this game, Twisted Metal Black, the story was very dark. It was very dark, very, very dark, which is why this was the first game that was rated M. I think the others were just all teen, right? Yeah, all the other Twisted Metals were just teen. This is the only one that was rated M, as well as I think the PlayStation 3 one was also rated M. That one actually had real people playing the characters for the story. But it was so dark, and the story was just so good for each of the characters. I even made a DVD of it. So I had a DVD, and I had interactive menus for each of the characters' stories. So I've really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with my family with some of these games, but also my friends as well. Like, my friends and I would just play this game all the time. It was one of our favorite games to actually play. But in addition, we also really liked Time Splitters Future Perfect. So this is a PlayStation 2 game. This is the only Time Splitters game that I actually owned. There's 2 other ones prior to this. This is technically the 3rd one. And there's like 150 characters you can play as in this game. It's absolutely crazy. And my friend and I would play it so much. We had so much fun playing this. We would just spend hours on our weekend just playing this game, as well as the Twisted Metal series as well. Like, you can make your own maps in here. There's so many characters to choose from, and we had so many crazy fun times. And I remember it's basically like a first-person shooter game. And I remember one of the weapons in there is an injector. That's right, injection. And you would inject your opponents, and they would become big and massive and just explode. They would just explode. And it was absolutely hilarious. So, yeah, had a lot of fun with this game. But there's also plenty of solo games, one-player games, that I really loved as well that were pretty good. Such as Silent Hill 3. This was the first actual horror game that I got, and I absolutely loved it. This is why this is my favorite Silent Hill. This is the only Silent Hill. Well, no, I had a few other Silent Hill games, but they just were not as good as this one. But this was my absolute favorite. This was my absolute favorite. I did eventually purchase the first Silent Hill game, but I never actually played it until I did my playthrough of it on my gaming channel. And I also owned Tommy Wiseau Presents Silent Hill 4 The Room. I always say that, it's just funny. Yeah, Silent Hill 4 The Room, very, very different, but I never actually had Silent Hill 2. If I had Silent Hill 2, that would have been my favorite one as well. And I had Silent Hill Origins for the PSP, it wasn't a bad game. I actually enjoyed this one. I had Silent Hill Shattered Memories, also for the PSP, and I believe, I'm not sure if I had I didn't see the PS2 version when I was looking. I think that maybe this is the only one that I actually had. That one was also pretty good, but my least favorite, Silent Hill Homecoming for the PS3. This one was just so bad that I never actually even finished it. Because I got stuck at a certain point, and it auto-saved when I had like no health, and I didn't have any sort of health pickups, and I couldn't complete it. And I was like, I don't want to play through the whole game again. I don't want to play through the whole game again. But out of all of those, the ones that I played when I was younger, these are my 2 favorites, Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill 4, The Room. I had, let me tell you this, I've done a playthrough on my gaming channel of Silent Hill 2. If I had Silent Hill 2 when I was younger, that definitely would have made one of my top list. Absolutely amazing game. But I also have soundtracks. Here's so the actual Silent Hill 3 game, it actually comes with a soundtrack, as you can see. This is the actual soundtrack here, and then this is the actual game. Well, that's the American soundtrack. I didn't want that. I wanted the official imported from Japan soundtrack, which actually has a bonus track on it. It actually has a bonus track. So, yeah. Yeah, this is I like this soundtrack. I like the soundtrack. The Silent Hill music. The Silent Hill soundtracks don't have all of the music in the game, so I ended up like making like my own custom soundtrack because there's a lot of tracks missing, and this is some really creepy music. This is a horror game, survival horror game. Like literally, if you think Resident Evil is a horror game, you haven't seen anything until you've played through some of the Silent Hill games. These are far more scary, in my opinion. Silent Hill 4 soundtrack, which this one wasn't. I mean, all of the music in the Silent Hill games is absolutely amazing. So, especially the vocal tracks as well by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. And then here's the Silent Hill Origins, or Silent Hill 0 is what it was called in Japan, the soundtrack for this one. So this one's much larger, as you can see. It's in like a DVD case. So Silent Hill series, absolutely love it, but I kind of stopped playing it. Like, I would say everything prior to Homecoming, all the ones that I showed you, are good, especially like Silent Hill 2, 1, 2, and 3, I think are probably the absolute best. Past that, kind of starts going downhill a bit. And the other game that I absolutely loved, like Silent Hill 3, probably one of my favorite games of all time, the equivalent in the Resident Evil series is Resident Evil 4. This was the original one that I had on the GameCube. Absolutely amazing game. Even though it is only one player, my friend and I would play a certain segment again and again and again, and we loved the Dr. Salvador chainsaw guy. Just, I even have a poster of this on my door of Leon and a chainsaw man just kind of sawing his head. So I would show like the guidebooks for this as well. That's right, because I got some of this stuff from like guidebooks, but the guidebooks are put away for the time being. Okay, the guidebooks are put away. But speaking of books, this was the soundtrack for Resident Evil 4. Look at this thing. This is literally a book. It's literally a book here. So you open it up. There's various things in here. And then at the very end... Okay. It paused when I put it down. Here's the soundtrack at the very end of the book. Okay. And then I even had the DVD. This was Resident Biohazard, because that's what it was called in Japan. It wasn't called Resident Evil. Biohazard 4 film DVD book Incubate. So it was basically like a collection of like cutscenes from the game, as well as some like gameplay moments to put into like a movie. So I had that. I had that was interesting. And that's also like a book. I even had the PlayStation 2 version of Resident Evil 4. And this one was not as good as the GameCube version. Like, the cutscenes were lower quality. Like, a lot of stuff was just lower quality. It just wasn't as good. So, primarily the GameCube version was the best one. But also, I managed to get the very first Resident Evil game, the remake of it on GameCube. Also, very, very fun game. Very, very different. Very, very different. This game is much more about puzzle and strategy, as opposed to the action of Resident Evil 4. And then I even had Resident Evil Outbreak, File Number 2, which this game, I didn't really care for this game all that much, to be completely honest with you, but I never had any of the other Resident Evil games, but I have to say, just playing through the first 3, actually, I played through 1, 2, 3, and Survivor on my gaming channel, and out of those 4, Resident Evil 2 was my favorite. So if I had Resident Evil 2 back in the day, that would have been such an amazing, probably one of my top favorite games, because it was really, really good. And next was the Metal Gear Solid series. So this was a friend who had the original PlayStation 1 Metal Gear Solid, which is considered to be one of the best. So I watched him play when I was much younger, and I ended up going to the game store when I was a kid, and I saw this one for the GameCube. I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," and it was like dirt cheap. It was like on clearance. It was on sale. It was like under $10 or something. It was like $8 maybe. And it's like, okay, here it is, Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes for the GameCube, which is a remake of the first one, and a lot of people don't like it really because, you know, it takes the original, which people loved, and it changes some things. But I actually really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and my friend played it, and he enjoyed it a bit. Like, oh, you can go into first person and actually, you know, move around. This is basically a stealth game. So you want to sneak around. You don't want to alert the guards, and you know, it's otherwise a shooter type game, but it's more stealth based. So you don't want to alert anything. So I absolutely love the Metal Gear Solid series, and I have since gotten the Metal Gear Solid collection here. The Essential Collection has Metal Gear Solid, the first one for the PlayStation 1, the second one, and then the third one, which out of those three, so I never played the original one. It's like, I'd rather play the more advanced ones. Metal Gear Solid 2, I would say, is probably my favorite of the bunch. And then also got the HD collection, which is basically Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker all together here. And yeah, you have HD versions of those. Peace Walker, I would have to say then, beats Metal Gear Solid 2. Peace Walker is probably my absolute favorite. This is for PlayStation 3. And then Metal Gear Solid 4 for the PlayStation 3. I bought this like the moment I got the PlayStation 3, and I never played it. I paid full retail price for it, and I never played it. And I also had Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops as well for the PSP. This one was, wasn't all that great, to be completely honest with you, from what I remember. But yeah, there's plenty of other Metal Gear Solid games for me to play. On my gaming channel, I've played through the original Metal Gear series. I've played through the Twin Snakes, and I plan on playing through the others at some point as well. So Metal Gear Solid series, certainly one of my top favorite series, along with Silent Hill, Resident Evil, amazing games. This was another game that I absolutely loved when I was much younger, which was Siphon Filter Logan Shadow for the PSP. And I also had the one before this, Siphon Filter Dark Mirror for the PSP. These are the only Siphon Filter games that I had, but there are 4 other prior to this one. Siphon Filter 1, 2, and 3 for the PlayStation 1, and then Siphon Filter, oh gosh, what is that one called for the PS2? Kind of drawing a blank with it. It is called the Omega Strain. So I never played those, but I have on my gaming channel. I've played through the first 3 at the time of recording this. So this was it was just a solo game that I played. Then you can play with multiple players, different things, but it's basically, I guess you can kind of call it like Metal Gear Solid in some ways. Like there's a lot of sneaking elements involved, and you know, if you get caught in whatever, you know, you have to shoot your way out of stuff and everything. But it's basically about stealth and solving, just sneaking around basically. And I really enjoyed this a lot. And because it's on the PSP, I played it so many times, and I got like 100% on it, and I absolutely loved that, which made me want to play the originals. And I really enjoyed the originals as well. And the music, this is how I found one of my favorite music composers of all time from this, if you can believe that. Specifically this game, there is, it wasn't a music composer, sorry. It's a singer. She sang on some of the tracks, Azam Ali, which is a Persian woman. I looked up some of her other music, and oh man, absolutely love it. So yeah, she's one of my favorite singers, I must say, and I found it through a video game. I also really love RPG games. There haven't been any yet, but here's the first one here. PlayStation 2 Dark Cloud, also known as Dark Chronicle in other countries. This is basically an RPG game, but this one was very, very unique. I don't know what it was about this game, but I absolutely love this game. Did 100% on it. It really didn't have like any, like after I completed it, I didn't want to play anymore. It was like, okay, I'm just kind of done. But it was still a lot of fun playing the game. And basically, what was so interesting about it is that you go into different dungeons and you have to get certain parts from the dungeon and you bring them out and you make a village from the parts that you collect from the dungeon to rebuild that area that has been destroyed. So I found I had the second game, but I did not like the second game. I didn't like the art style of it, but I really did like the first one. Really, really enjoyed it, and the music is also very, very good. Another RPG game that I loved probably even more, but it also kind of suffered the same fate where after I played it, I'm like, at least, well, this game did have a little bit of, no, I wouldn't say replay value, but after you beat it, or after you got like really close to the end or whatever, you unlock something bonus, which was just kind of like 100-floor dungeon or something. This game here didn't have any of that, unfortunately, but it was still such a unique, interesting game, especially like the story for it. And that is Okage, Shadow King. Also known as Me and Satan King in the Japanese version, I think is what it translated to, which was Boku to Mao, or something along those lines. Me and Satan King, because yes, here's you, right here. Here's you, and here's your evil shadow. Here's your evil shadow. The story for this, very, very interesting, and it takes some real thought. It's like, when I first played it, I was like, okay, interesting. But then the more that I started to understand the story, I began to think, oh, I'm understanding the deeper meaning now behind this. And it kind of looks like, I don't know if it shows it anywhere here, maybe not, but it's almost like a bit like a Tim Burton type of like aesthetic. Because it has like, I think it's in The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was one of my favorite movies back in the day. Maybe that's why I kind of like it. There is that like mountain that like curls all up. There is that same exact mountain in this game, what's so interesting about it. So I don't know how, you probably really can't even see that because it makes it a bit darker, but yeah, this was a very, very fun, interesting game, RPG game, and really, really unique. And I even have the soundtrack for it. And it actually has the Japanese name here, so Boku to Mao, which it actually says it to you here. So it says, for these two, Boku, it says oneself, and it says Boku equals me. And then the to is a conjugation, and it means and. So me and the last one here, it says out of mankind for this one, and then Lord or King. So Satan King is what it translates to. So me and Satan King. So really interesting music as well. I really like the music in the game. And this was, honestly, this was the very first game soundtrack that I actually owned. Yeah, the music in this game was just that good. I needed to get the soundtrack. Now, technically, Dark Cloud was actually the game that I purchased the soundtrack first. But for some reason, the seller, it never arrived. I was waiting and waiting and waiting, and then eventually it just never arrived. So I don't even have the soundtrack for Dark Cloud, unfortunately. But this one came in from a reputable realtor back in the day, and that was my first soundtrack to video games because I owned so many now. Continuing with RPG games, prior to being Japanese RPG games, this one is actually not. This is Summoner 2, and this is not a role-playing game like it's you're taking turns like the other. Well, Dark Cloud, you did not take turns. This is more similar to that. Okage, Shadow King, you did take turns with RPGs, with the RPG battle system. This one you don't. You just go around and you attack the enemies. But I really liked the design of Summoner 2. I also had this game for the GameCube, but I think I sold it because the characters, like the main character, Maya, she did not look good in the GameCube version. So, did not like it. But This is the second Sega game in the series. I never played the first one back in the day, but I have recently on my gaming channel, which was a very different RPG game. Like it's kind of like the combat system's a little weird, but I absolutely loved it. Oh my gosh, it was absolutely amazing. This one, I remember seeing it in the store, and I'm like, I really like how this looks. You know, how this game looks, and I really like it. I really like it a lot, and immediately I disliked it. Now, what's interesting is that the game prior to this that I mentioned, Okage, that game I played for a while, and it took so long to actually get into it. I hated it. I absolutely hated that game. I was like, I'm going to return this. I don't like this, but I stuck it through, and then it became one of my favorites. This one was not like that. This one I liked immediately, but I also really love the music in this game. Now, there is no soundtrack for it, but I have extracted the music from it. I've created my own soundtrack, and absolutely love this. And I enjoy the story, and it's a hard game, especially because I went to a point early on in the game where I didn't have enough levels, and I was stuck in that area, and I was trapped, and it was like, oh, this is absolutely horrible, absolutely horrible. But one of my favorite games. One of my favorite games. Continuing with RPG games, this is another Japanese RPG game. Star Ocean Till the End of Time. This one here, I don't remember how I saw this. Maybe I saw a commercial or something, and I really liked it, and I decided to buy it, and that was a good decision. Here's just the actual cover in here. Because I never played the other Star Oceans. This is technically considered the third Star Ocean game. And I think it's the first one on the PlayStation 2, because I think the others were PlayStation 1, or I think there was also one on... I think one of them on the PlayStation 1 was like a remake of one for like the SNES or something. I don't remember, but I never played the original ones. I just had this one, and I absolutely enjoy the story. This was like the first game that I actually had that actually counted over 100 hours. So some of these other games, it would just cap out at, 99 hours or something. This actually went over 100 hours because you're going to be spending over 100 hours in this game, because there is so much content in this game. There's so much. When you actually beat it, you unlock a whole bunch of bonus content afterwards that makes you want to keep playing it, including a dungeon with like 255 floors. And I beat all of it. It was absolutely just so much fun. You can create your own weapons and like synthesis materials, all that sort of stuff. And the music in it? Oh man, I have the soundtracks. The first one, the second one, and then the director's cut, which is the Japanese version that was released a little later, which is what the American version actually includes. Music is great, and this is how I found one of my favorite composers as well, and I've played some other games on my gaming channel that he's composed, such as a Valkyrie Profile, which was a very, very good game for the PlayStation 1. Never owned it back in the day, though. He has composed music for that, and I'm like, this sounds familiar, Same composer, and yeah, just that game, very science fiction-y. Loved the story for it. So, one of my favorite games of all time. Out of all the games that I have showed you, this next one I probably have the most hours in. And that is has probably the longest title of any game. Phantasy Star Online Episode 3 Card Revolution. That's the full title of the game. So, if you're not familiar with the Phantasy Star series, I have the original one here as well for the GameCube, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Plus. It originally was a Dreamcast game, RPG game, where you mostly played online. And, well, you didn't have to play online, but that was the whole appeal of it, because back in the day, you didn't really have too many games that I could get online. And then you had a Dreamcast. That was another system that I had back in the day. I had barely any games for it. Barely any games. This was not one of them, unfortunately, but I would have loved it. But you could get online and actually play in a team of up to 4 players and go through the dungeon and kill enemies, kill monsters, and gain experience. And it's basically like an online MMORPG, except you can only have up to 4 players in your party at the time. Or you could just go solo. And it's a very, very slow grind to get levels up and to get special weapons and everything. So that's actually based off of the original 4 Phantasy Star games for primarily the Sega Genesis, which I've done a playthrough of the first 3 so far on my gaming channel. Plan on playing the 4th one at some point. So I never had any sort of introduction to any of those. My first introduction to the series was this episode 3, which was a card game. Completely different, and people did not like this game because it basically turned the RPG elements into like Yu-Gi-Oh! Essentially. And speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! Look, I had 2 games here for the PSP, Tekken Tag Force 1 and 2. Honestly, I played so many hours of these as well. I even had this one here for the PlayStation 1, Forbidden Memories. I despise this game. I've done a playthrough of this. I cheated because that game cheats. Okay? That game cheats, so guess what? I am cheating right back in return because I despise that game. But anyway, we're not talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. Although I do love Yu-Gi-Oh! And I do love the game, so think of Yu-Gi-Oh! If you're familiar with how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! I think this is better than a Yu-Gi-Oh!, to be completely honest with you. And let me tell you why. So, the whole premise of this is that it's a card game. You battle with cards, but you're on an arena. So you move your character around. So there's additional element to it of strategy involved with how you're going to be combating your opponent. And you basically have 2 different sides. You have the hero side, which equips weapons, and they take all of their weapons and armor with them. And then you have the opposing side, which brings out monsters and enemies to try to attack the hero. So that's what's interesting about this. So depending on what side that you're playing on, you have a different strategy of how you want things to go. So you don't want the character that has all of the armor and weapons equipped to get to the other character if you're playing as the monster person who's bringing out monsters to try to prevent a direct attack, essentially. So yeah, I just really loved it. I really loved it. The music in it is absolutely amazing, which is why I have the soundtrack. The music in the Phantasy Star games, as well as like the Sonic games and other like Sega type games, is phenomenal. But I have this, the soundtrack. It's called Let the Winds Blow. Oh, look, there I am there. Let the Winds Blow. Phantasy Star Online Episode 3 Card Revolution original soundtrack. Like, they couldn't have the name even longer, But, yeah, absolutely amazing. And what was so amazing about this? You open this up, and it came with some promotional cards. So here's like an example here. Maybe I'll be able to read some of this now because I can read. I can read some Japanese now. It says Beetle. So some of these cards were actually in the game. Like this one was in the game. This one was in the game as well. This one was Gifoy. Yeah, Gifoy. I have to read what it says on my own time here. This one was also in the game. I think it was Gibarta. SP. Oh no. Kanta. Okay, SP Counta. Counta. So this is a counter card. This one, I don't think this one was in the game. This is another one here. Ribasaru, right? Ribasaru. Oh, reversal. Okay, reversal. We're doing on the spot here, and I think this one was in the game. This one may have been in the game. This one may have been in the game, but it was probably removed, maybe. Because there are a lot of removed cards, which I found a code. You can actually access all of them. It's so amazing. Then you have this one here, the uppercut. Okay, it means critical. So, those were the promotional cards. I really wish it was actually like a real card game, but it would be very complex because you'll be moving on a grid. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love the card game more than Yu-Gi-Oh! And I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I really do. I've liked Yu-Gi-Oh! Since I was a kid, and I just such a great game. It really is. But Phantasy Star Online Episode 3, Card Revolution, even better, in my opinion. So that game I have easily 500 plus hours in from just all the times that I've played it. I don't know the exact count, but it's definitely over 500 hours. Definitely over 500 hours. But now, the moment you've been waiting for, I mean, all this has been stalled, okay? All of those games, absolutely great, absolutely amazing. But there's 2 games now that have changed my life. Sure, all those games have changed my life, sure. But there's 2 games that stand out the most. I'm going to show them to you now. Now, of course, there are so many other games and so many other series that I may have missed. A lot of games that I own, so it is very hard to pick just a few, but I picked too many. But what this video is all coming down to are the top 2 games that changed my life, that made me into a different person. So the first one that I found when it came out in, oh gosh, I don't even know how old I was. Let me figure that out. Okay, so I was probably like 14 or 15 when the game came out. So that's around the time, entering teenage years. This is the game right here. PsyOps: The Mindgate Conspiracy. So, it's basically a shooting game. Now, how is a shooting game influential in any sort of way? This is a game where you have psychic abilities, psychic powers, and you kill your opponents with those psychic abilities. Okay, but still, how is this influential? It says your mind is the ultimate weapon. That's true. It's very, very true. Well, here's the interesting thing. On this game, after you beat it, you unlock like a brief 10-minute documentary or something about the game and its development. And that's when some of the developers were like, the government is concealing information, that they're conducting research into these psychic abilities to use in, military operations. And I'm like, huh, okay. Then I start kind of researching some of that, and I find, okay, I want my own psychic abilities. So back then, the internet, you had like dial-up or whatever, or DSL, whatever, much slower, much harder, but the websites were very unique. So I found a website that had so many different things on it, and I remember reading like meditation was the way to go. So that's how I found meditation. That's when I started to do meditation. But back then, it was very different. Back then, I was trying to force something to happen. And I remember reading, you can't force anything to happen. You just have to allow it. So over time, I got a little better at it. I really did. But yeah, it came from this game. This shooting game with psychic abilities and psychic powers. That's how I found meditation. That's how I found self-hypnosis that I've used. So if it wasn't for that, would I have talked about meditation? Would I have found meditation at some point? Would I have been doing it? I don't know. But I'm like, wow, amazing. So that was the first game. Now the second game, I don't want to spoil too much of it because, let me just say, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. Okay, so the next game is actually a 3-game trilogy. And that is the Xenosaga trilogy. Xenosaga 1, Xenosaga 2, and then Xenosaga 3. And I have posters on my wall of some of the characters. So absolutely beautiful artwork, I must say. This is an RPG game, Japanese RPG game. You take turn-based RPG game. The actual gameplay itself, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not my favorite. It really isn't. It's the story. It's the story for this game that changed my life. I mean, the music is great too. I have the soundtrack. The first one is composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, and the other 2 are one of my favorite music composers of all time, Yuki Kajiura. Absolutely amazing. But no, we're not here to talk about the music. We're not here to talk about the gameplay. The story is where it's at, and I don't want to spoil it. I really don't, because let me tell you this. The subtitle of all 3 games is from German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. So the first one, Der Will Zermacht. Manched. I don't know. It's all German, so I don't know. Jetsu van Guttenbos for the second one, and the third one, also Sprach Zarathustra. So, let me just say, these games, the storyline for it has a lot of this type of philosophy in it. Has a lot of Carl Jung psychology. That's how I became very interested in a lot of this. But also, some of the concepts in it, like you think, okay, this is all, it's basically set in like a science fiction world, like 4,000 or 5,000 years in the future. So, the interesting thing is, it's like a lot of the names of things are actually based on actual like real things. And when you actually look it up, it starts connecting back to some of that psychology or the philosophy or like the human psyche. And it's like, oh my gosh, the people who worked on this were just brilliant. They really were. And some of the concepts in it, when I played the final game, which was like my senior year in high school, and I watched the cutscenes and the story, I don't think I've ever cried at a video game. I actually cried because it was just so emotional. It was like, oh my gosh. But then I started doing like a deep dive into the story. And that's when I decided to do a research paper my senior year in high school based on this game. And the more I researched, I began to realize this is not some like science fiction thing that they're just kind of making up in this fantasy, story. No, they're actually basing a lot of this on actual concepts and real life, theories of the universe, how it started, how it's going to end, and kind of everything in between, how the human mind is, how things work, all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, wow. So, like the overall theme of the game and the story that it's trying to get across are basically a way of thinking about life and the way that the universe is and how it may end. And these are beliefs that I have that makes a lot of sense to me personally. And it's just like, wow. So that game changed my life in so many amazing ways. It really is. It really is. I mean, you can watch the actual cutscenes. So the first game's cutscenes are maybe like 8.5 hours long if you watch all the cutscenes, and it is voice acted. It is voice acted. You can find it online. The second game has like maybe like 5.5 hours or something, and then the last game has like 9 hours. So in total, I think it's like, actually that was kind of reversed, wasn't it? The second game has like 5.5 hours. Third game has which is probably the best because they have to cram. It was supposed to originally be 6 games, but they had to cram in the final like 3 games in this game here. So you basically have like, I'd say, kind of slow first game. The Sega game is almost like 2 games in one, it seems, and the last one is like 4 games in one because of how the story progresses. And in total, it's maybe like 22 hours of cutscene total, or somewhere between 20 to 22 hours, somewhere between there. And the third game's cutscenes are absolutely just beautiful. So if you watch it, you may be thinking, like, when you actually start watching it, you're like, you may be several hours in and go like, I don't understand. I don't, it just seems like a science fiction thing, but pay attention because it gets crazy. It really does. So those are the top 2 games that have changed my life. Look at these. Look at these amazing games right here. That'll be the thumbnail. Amazing, amazing games. Anyway, I've been on here for so long. With all the pauses, it's probably like an hour and a half, but half of that. So thank you to anyone. If you've made it this far into the video, I guess give it a thumbs up and comment something. Comment something. Something fun and interesting. Anyway, y'all take care, have a great one, and I shall catch you later. Let me know what your thoughts are on any of these games that I've shown, or any games you may want me to play on my gaming channel at some point, or any games that I may have missed, because I may have some games, like I didn't show off like the Kingdom Hearts series, and I think that was an important one, but I was like, I think I'll skip that, but it was still an important one. And so many other games. I have so many games. So let me know what your thoughts are. Y'all take care. Have a great one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.